Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and Tim.
And
this is
for those of you listening,
my son Eugene.
Kyle's holding up a baby.
Yeah, and he is that is a Citadel paint pot he's chewing on. I'm pretty sure that he can't break that seal.
As long as it's not the Nolan oil, he'll be fine.
That's acrylic paint is non-toxic anyway, right?
Yeah. All you got is a mess. That's all you like.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, my kid bedtime situation is a little bit in flux at the moment.
Yeah.
We're gonna soldier on and have a cute baby on the
screen. Funny. Okay, with the kid stuff, we were looking at doing a I don't know when yet, but soon we're going to do a stream here. I've got the studio finally set up, and Jeremy's going to come over and we're going to stream. And I was like, well, who is going to run the actual stream? Because I have to play. And Jeremy, so my one of my sons really wants to get into streaming and it wanted to start his own YouTube channel, and he's going to be 16 soon. And I was like, you know what? I'll just have him, I'll teach him and I'll have him run it. So I don't know. This is starting to become a family operation. You get him about 5 years older, Kyle, and you could ship him up here. I'll put him in the shop and he can work.
There you go. My daughter turns 6 next month. So
perfect. If she can put Garsex and Shield cards into envelopes, I have a job for her.
she loves mailing things to people. They're usually
fantastic.
They're usually like crayon drawn pictures, but I'm sure that she could make an exception.
Slices of cheese.
Yeah. You'd be surprised at the random things that she likes to put in envelopes.
Hey, then I've got a perfect job for her. Oh man. But yeah, speaking of those Shield cards, they're coming, everybody. Please stop asking me. If you filled out the form, you're going to get it. There's just literally, we're encroaching 5,000. I'm doing my best. Please. My post office didn't carry that many stamps. And so I'm buying stamps as I go. I just got, between international and domestic, I just got 3,000 more stamps. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm getting them out. If you filled out the form, you're going to get one eventually. We're doing them in batches, so some of your friends probably got them already and you didn't, but you will. I promise they're coming. Okay, I promise. We're doing I think we've got about 1,500 that we're getting ready to do tomorrow and Wednesday. So hopefully by the time you guys hear this, we would have mailed those out already. So please, just, you're gonna get it. It's just I really don't think you guys appreciate how many 5,000 is. Envelope, stamped, Garsex and Shield card in a little plastic bag so it doesn't get wrecked, into an envelope and sealed, and then plus printing the addresses on it, getting them from that form to print them, to put them out. Dude, I'm working on it. I love you guys. They're coming. Okay, just everybody relax.
Yeah, think about how those that have done wedding invitations, that was probably maybe at most 200.
Yeah.
Think about how many 5,000 is.
And that's on top of everything else we do, Stormtide, our normal store operations, podcasts, everything else. We're getting there. I swears it, everybody. It is moving along. But yeah, so that's coming. Sorry, I didn't mean to just jump into that. It's just a lot of people, and then people were asking me, well, are you going to do errata cards and all the other print and play? Dude, not today. I have these Garsaxons that I've promised I have to get out, so we'll get those out, and then we'll see what I do in the future. But as of right now, I'm just worried about the present.
You got any other housekeeping while we're in this area?
Yeah. So we launched, if you guys haven't seen, we launched some new order tokens. They're Battle Force or Battle Ready, not Battle Force specific at all. Just Battle Ready tokens that may or may not match particular battle forces that you may or may not have. And so those are in the store now. They'll be I'm very excited. So everybody knows we're producing these now in-house. So this, again, going back to the Storm Tide thing, this is American, all American made. I can control the what you call it a little bit more. The word just fell out of my head, but
supply chain.
Yeah, thank you. I could control the supply chain way better. So we're actually just producing these ourselves. So those are going to be the first order tokens that we're doing that. I'm really excited about that. Those will be shipping the week of August 5th. Probably before the 5th, because that's the Gen Con weekend and I'll be at Gen Con. So they will be available. They're going to be coming soon. Let's see what else we got. Check out Storm Tide is going to be shipping here in a couple weeks. We're back at it. I'm really excited about that. So that'll be coming out. We've got I'll spoil it here. So we're actually doing something new. So for those of you that didn't know, and Storm Tide in the past is basically, to kind of simplify it, was one story that you both read, right? And you just kind of read it, and it was giving you, it's kind of non-commander or ship specific. It was just a generalized story that either person could read and be like, oh, that's my ship. Well, now we're doing divergent storylines. So each player has their own story that they're following, and they're going to have their own this is really cool. So objectives and deployments are going to be different. So instead of putting them on one card like we do in regular Legion and how we have been doing, you'll each get your own briefing sheet for the mission, and you'll have a specific objective that you have to achieve that the other ship may have a different one, and you will only see your deployment when you're deploying. And so you'll see, as they're deploying their units, what their deployment is. So, and along with that is this divergent storyline, which, there's all this great stuff. We've got a great new writer, Matt. He is doing, it's going to kind of, hopefully my dream eventually is it for to be like remember those choose your own adventure stories where like the decision you make without before we were doing forms as like global decisions, but ideally what I'd like to come down to is choices that you make in these games will dictate what happens to you specifically moving forward. Now, it's still going to be within parameters, right? Because I can't predict everything, but ideally within these parameters, you'll be able to have some kind of room to grow your forces, your commander, your story a little bit more on top of the skill trees we're already doing. So I'm very excited about that. And that is so that's we're on season 2. This is box 4 of season 2. If you wanted to sign up, you don't even have to sign up season 1. If you start with season 2 box 1, we'll also have season 2 quarter 1 up this week as well. So you could just start with the first 3 boxes of season 2, and that'll get you into it and going. You don't actually need season 1 if you don't want it. So that's really exciting. And then, as always, support us on Patreon. All these guys and girls that do the blog and the podcasts and everything. We like making them comfortable and happy for doing all this great work. And so your Patreon dollars support that. We're going to try to be a little bit more interactive with the Patreon. It's been a little dormant because we've been so busy. So for those of you that are on Patreon, you can start expecting stuff soon to be happening. And then we're also going to be doing a live Q&A monthly. I think we're going to start that in September, just with everything going on. There's like a bunch of shows coming up. There's a lot going on in August for everybody. So I think probably September is when we'll start that up, and I'll round up our, the cats here over at the 5th Trooper and get them ready to do a live Q&A, which I think we'll do on Twitch or something, and just, I think it would be cool. I'm kind of thinking about this out loud, but it would be cool. We have the studio set up, which I was just saying for like live streams and stuff, but we could have a camera set up and maybe we could talk about, somebody asked us how to do a particular move or how something works. Well, Kyle or somebody could be explaining it and I could be moving them around on the table so that we have visual aids to that as well. I think that would be kind of interesting. But we'll get to that, and you guys will all get notified of that. Trying to think. I think that's it. If you wanna say hi, I'll be at Gen Con, walking around. I'm just gonna, trying to meet people and kissing babies and all that good stuff. And then Nova, Kyle and I and Bushman, and I think Bushman and Evan are going to be at Gen Con too. So, and Nova. So that, there's a bunch of us that are going to be at these shows coming up. So, make sure you pop in and say hi to us, So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're playing in Nova, right?
I am playing in Nova.
Okay.
Same day you are.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited because we have a particular topic that's going to affect that. So
why don't you want to just get right into it?
Yeah, Kyle, go ahead. Tell everybody.
So I gotta eat some crow here. I was one.
Oh, I'm so guys. I am so happy right now. I can't even. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I was 100% wrong about delaying tactics. I literally just misread the card. So what it says is that there is it does not work on commander tokens. What it does not say is that it does not work on operative tokens, like every other card in the game that has an exclusion for characters of some kind. This is the first card that I've ever seen for Legion that only has an exclusion for commanders, but not for operatives.
Yeah.
That's a target enemy ability. You have ones like Ploy that have like a special carve out that also let them work with operatives. Right. But this is the first like target an enemy unit ability that works on operatives but not commanders. So when I read the card, to me it was like the same language as the Super Tactical Droid 1-pip, which says that you can't kick back a commander or operative token. But that's not true. You can kick back an operative token. And there's no like minimum orders like on SAP cons. So
yeah,
if your opponent's playing Jedi Luke or Operative Vader or Shadow Collective Maul without the Darksaber, you can just like throw their order back in the pool, and it's like playing Anakin's Flaw card on one of those characters.
Yep. I mean, basically what it means is if they try to do a last first, and somebody asked us what last first was. So last means you activate that unit last during a turn phase to then activate them first in the next turn phase. And basically the design of that is so they're safe to do what you need them to do in that next turn, whether it's Luke killing something, Boba grabbing a box and running, like whatever those things are, whatever you're trying to achieve. So basically what this means is if Luke, let's use Luke as an example, dives into my front lines of my Echo base that I have, my Leia Echo base, and thinks he's going to Son of Skywalker that next turn, I'm going to go ahead and play that card. His order token is going to go back into his thing. And I'm probably going to give that to a Vets, which is going to give it to an MK or whatever's in base with him. And I'm going to withdraw and then shoot him until he dies.
Or until he pulls his token, which could be a long time because it's one token out of 10, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's basically Anakin's Flaw card in that situation, which is to say that it's like devastating. And, if with one of these Force users, another common play is you might not even necessarily want to go first. You just want to kind of hold your action until after the unit that you're in melee with goes so that you can remain safe. And this just completely messes up your timing.
Yeah.
Which so is good. Yeah. And I would go so far as to say, if you're going to a tournament and you expect to see Echo Base, I wouldn't play Operative Maul for Shadow Collective. Like this is just another chuck in the Darksaber. Like I'm just going to build him with the Darksaber to give him that commander rank and make him immune to this card. If I'm running a Jedi Luke list, I'm going to give one of my snipers an uplink. Like I'm going to find the 10 points to do that so that I can flip that uplink when this card gets played, because having like Jedi Luke or Darth Vader or Maul's token in the bag on a key turn is like not palatable.
Yeah, and listen, I think we had talked in our group chat, and a lot of you are going to say, yeah, but, and Kyle said this, and other people and Fifth Trooper have said this, I'm not going to give up. Like, if I'm going to run Luke or something else in the Echo base list, I'm not going to give up their 1-pips for this. It's not for them. What it's for is the list that we talked about. And if you're following us on social, on our Twitter or our Instagram, I posted a full painted army of the Echo base that I had talked about on last week's podcast. It's for the gunline Echo base to basically be a buffer and a protection against a melee dive from an operative, or even, like I was even thinking special forces, like if the the Magna Guard or something dive in, or Wookiees dive in, and they're gonna pull that token the next turn so that they can chop down. Well, I just play that card, and I said, nah, put that back in your bag. And so it really makes that list, gunline list, for me, playing Leia a lot stronger and a lot better and a lot more options.
I would even take this if I'm running Commander Luke in a Hoth list. I would probably take this over Serve.
Okay.
Yeah, you can give him an order with it still. It's still useful in those other situations, but like in the situations that we just talked about, it's basically game winning. In a way that Serve isn't going to be. So I would consider taking it even in an operative Luke list, or sorry, not an operative Luke list, in a Jedi Luke list. So, dang it, Commander Luke.
What is happening?
Especially for Commander, Luke also is generally not the greatest in duels,
right?
Like Force user duels, and this could just give him the upper hand he needs to just. I mean, he won't win the duel. The gunline will win the duel, but bring guns to a saber fight and win.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I can tell you all, I have played Echo Base. It is crazy good. And I played it with a Leia Rebel officer. They had electro binoculars. I played 3 Rebels with their upgrade and offensive push. I played 3 the MKs with link targeting array, 4 the laser cannons with barrage generator, and I put emergency transponders on them. I'm actually thinking about switching out the emergency transponders for targeting scopes on the vets, just to play around. But I could tell you, this is ruthlessly efficient gunline. And, you're basically focused on giving all your core, you want your core units to have the orders. So everybody's got orders. So your fire supporting, you've got aims, you've got standbys, you've got dodges. Like the token spamming on this list is incredible with everything you have going on. It's a really, really good list. And I think the cards for sure are kind of what take it from a good to great list. But I think just this list alone is good. And then you add those cards in, like, oh, now I have protection from melee dive for the most part, unless they're running a commander. I now have a turn where if you're playing, key positions, intercept the transmissions, maybe even recover, like I'm going to blow you off the table one turn. Whatever tries to take that middle is going to probably die. At least 1 or 2 units. I don't think people really realize how strong vets are without any of this shenanigans. So all this other it's so good. It's such a good list. I think I'm not hot take. I would say this list, the way I have it built, is probably the best gunline list that's out there right now.
I like the Luke version better, but I'm with you that it's probably an Echo base list.
Yeah.
I mean, just to play off your comment on vets there, I think even outside of the Echo base context, besides like the Jedi Luke, 4 to 5 DLT captain list, I think you could make the case that in a lot of other Rebel list archetypes, the vets are just better anyway than Rebel troopers with DLTs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and that's something I've figured out, right? That's been my list I've talked about on here a bunch, is the Luke Sabine list has vets and the MKs, and they're just so good. And I think people don't realize, like, the whole MK move, shoot into range 4, is just with they get critical 2, plus they search surge on crits. So like you're throwing 4 white dice, even without an aim, you're likely to get at least a couple hits, if not a couple crits. And so it's really, really, really good. And I enjoy it. I did have a couple people talk crap to me a little bit about how I said I was going to put 10,000 hours in with that other list. And this is just my side list. I don't know that I'm maining this one. I'm not. We'll see though. If it's
a side piece.
Yeah, if it keeps doing what I think it's gonna do, and it doesn't get fixed, it may turn into I may just completely turn my back on all of my things that I've said and all my promises I've made just to devastate Kyle, particularly at Nova. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, the only Rebel Troopers I own or Rebel Corps I own are Rebel Vets. So I've liked them for a long time.
Yeah.
And they're fun.
There's a lot of people that own 3 vets. I think it's possible that we see people are like, well, who's going to go buy a bunch of FDs? Like, I think most people have the vets already. Mm-hmm. FDs are kind of everywhere because they were overstocked and people didn't really buy them. So there's a lot of like discounts on FDs out there at local stores. The barrier to this really is not as high as people might think. So
I mean, and if you like, I own 1 FD. I mean, I don't know if I'd run quad FDs, but getting 2 more isn't that big a deal. But like, if
or
you
even
already have
just one, do like 2 FDs and
I mean, I also think like there's like 2 FD, 2 Tauntaun,
right? Yeah,
all the other stuff is a pretty solid list too, right? So like if you do that, a lot of people own that kind of stuff, right? They'll have 1 or 2 FDs and 1 or 2 Tauntauns at least. So.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and like the thing, it's kind of the list is interesting in other ways too, like the versatility of it. So let's say, people generally go for the Mark II, the blasters. They go for them first, right? So let's say they do, and they knock 1 or 2 of them off. Well, now your vets can give orders to the FD turrets, so they're going to be able to hand. I mean, so there's ways to like mitigate some of that loss. But man, I like everything about this list. It throws a ton of dice. It has a ton of tokens. I got to hear Kyle say he was wrong, which is amazing. And that was just off of a note I sent him over the weekend going, hey, Kyle, I don't think you were really thinking about this. And it's good, and I'm hoping that people similarly find other lists within these new battle forces that stick out. I think there's opportunity there. This one was low-hanging fruit. It was easy to see it, just from like 2 minutes of talking about it. You're like, oh my god. And then you start adding on like offensive push and targeting scopes and all this other stuff, and you're like, oh, I just do whatever I want now as far as shooting. So no, it's good.
I think there's some interesting play too there with using Chewie to keep some of the emplacements alive. I think there's lots of potential for this beyond just the meme 7 FD or 7 emplacement list.
I mean, the MK2s being 4 health means you can't really just punk them off with snipers. Like in a lot of ways, mortars are easy. Like the short trooper mortar is easier to deal with snipers just because it's 3 wounds.
Yeah,
you can effectively deal with it in 1 turn with 3 different snipers. Whereas the MK2 with 4 health, they go down pretty easy to big shots, but they're better blink fire.
Yep.
So they're a hassle to deal with, and if Chewie's there able to absorb any of those piercing shots, then they just get that much tougher.
Yep. I mean, statistically, they're the same. 4 health with a surging white save versus 3 health with a non-surging red save is statistically the same effective health. Yeah. And then you factor in Pierce, and the MK2 is actually more durable. So, yeah.
Yep.
There is, before we move on, because I think we are actually going to talk some hobby today.
Yeah.
There's one more card in this Battle Force wave that I misread that I wanted to highlight. And this is a 5 of a first one. So of course the mistake goes in the other direction. Yep. Not the making it better direction. It is the 1 pip that slots into your hand as the 2 pip.
Lead from the front.
Yeah, lead from the front. So the extra free tokens have to be given to units that are within range 1 of your commander, not at range 1 of your commander, which is 95% of the time when you measure range, what you're doing. There's an important distinction, of course, in the rules between at and within. At is just any model in the unit touches a range band, touches the range band, which is how most things are measured.
Medics, like this is a trick with medics or B1 order.
Medics coordinate
sharing,
clone trooper sharing.
Yeah.
I mean, like attack ranges, you measure from unit leader to the opposing unit, and it's at. Not within. Almost every range in the game is at, and you'll see the same language on almost every command card for ranges too. The only things generally that are within are objectives like breakthrough. Your unit leader has to be within, and when hostage for the bonus points, the hostage token needs to be within, and then bombing run, the unit leader has to start within your deployment zone, and within. This is explicitly called out in the RRG. When within is used with respect to a range or a location, it means entirely within. So for the purposes of this 501st card, it can apply to up to 3 units, but within means entirely within, like every mini in the unit entirely within range 1. So if you've got like a 5 model unit, all 5 of those models, all of their bases have to be completely within range 1 of your commander to get the token from this.
I don't think I've ever seen that ever.
I haven't either. I mean,
no, I mean, I don't even think I've seen anybody like accidentally put units within 3 units within range 1 of their commander.
Yeah, it would be. I'd love to see like a diagram of like if that's even. I mean, I'm sure it's like technically possible, but you'd have pretty much most of the space within that range 1 radius circle like jam-packed with bases.
Yeah, because you can't have like one guy's half his bases outside of the one. It has to be 100% within. It's a very complex thing.
It's also just very hard to do play-wise because you start forming a bubble, not like guys like the unit leaders at the front, everyone behind, and trying to get all that behind cover. Like anyone who's played droids knows how quickly all your spots behind cover get filled up.
Yep.
So trying to just fit like essentially 4 units, your commander plus 3 behind some cover, all within range 1, is just not good.
Yep.
Yeah, and like I can't imagine this was the intent with this card, but this is a game where the rules are based on words, and based on the words on this card, that's how it works. Somebody posted on the forum about it, and the response was like, yeah, it has to be within range 1, the entire unit, every model. So this is what we have, at least right now. So I don't know. I guess this makes the 2-pip crowding less of an issue because you're just not taking this card. Right?
No. I mean, because you can't even use it on like it has to be other friendly units.
Right, you can't even use it on yourself.
Because like I could see if you had like I don't know Rex and like 2 units is something that could maybe happen, but when you're trying to fit like it's just too much.
It makes it kind of unusable. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it's real interesting, right? It's because it's almost like so he and listen, I don't know, but like here's how it feels to me, right? It feels like a year and a half ago they heard all of us talking about how Empire and Rebels needed help, and they were like, well, we know what to do. We'll boost them with these cool battle forces, right? Which is a great idea. Except for what they did was they didn't boost all 4 factions. They just boosted Rebels and Empire, and then they just kind of tossed some stuff together for the other 2 so that they could say they put out battle forces for all 4. That's what it feels like.
I mean,
because really there's nothing special really about the Confederation ones. Like they're all right, but it's not like it's not mind bending like like Blizzard and Echo Base are, where you're like, oh snap, there's like a brand new unit like that can take 4 heavy or 2 heavies and like what is happening?
Well, and even I mean the Empire one is the only one that feels like it got a lot of attention. Like even the Rebel one, like the Rebel one is powerful, but it's because it seems like there were some oversights in the direction that made the cards essentially uncapped or otherwise work on things that cards don't normally work on. Yeah. Whereas like, the 501st stuff is like the opposite direction, right? It's like, so, and I don't want to read intent into any of this. This is also a wave that contains like overt typos like Clone Commander Rex. So I don't know. This is what we have. So right now what we have is a card that requires you to have a unit completely within range 1 of your commander to work on it. I would just not take it if you're running 501st. Take any of the other wonderful 2 pips that you have access to.
So, and here's the thing. I, out of everyone, understand product, idea to development, to realization, to delivery of a product, right? I'm not trying to like, excuse my language here, but shit talk the AMG at all. What I'm saying is there's clear miscues here. What I think needs to happen, and an easy fix, is instead of all this, they do these erratas, right? But they just put them in like a bulleted list at the end of this like RRG. They're in the new errata thing. It's just like, oh, and here's the text change for this and this and this and this. What I think you need to do, AMG, is what you did with the Garsax and what you did with the battle forces, is provide them in print and play, all of them with the exact words, so that people can print them and let everybody know that those are legal. Print and play for these errata cards are legal. Then it's okay. Okay, you made a mistake, right? You missed something. It happens. There's a lot going on. You guys got a lot of waves going on, I'm sure, right? You're probably like, the way game development works, they're probably years ahead of where we are today as far as what's launching. So just fix it and put out a print and play. It's that easy, and everybody will be happy, and we'll all walk away and be like, yeah, all right. Yes, when it came out, that was scary, but like 2 weeks later, they had a fix for it, and it seemed to work, right? And I know what you're going to say. Well, we have to dev and test all this, but if you're willing to put out print and play, the dev test cycle can be a little shorter, because if you're just updating print and play cards, you don't have to go into production or anything at this time, right? So you could just produce, put out print and play and say, hey, we fixed it. And then if somebody breaks it in a different way, in 6 months, you just go, hey, we had to tweak something. Here's the new print and play, right? Like, it's especially on the competitive side. I think on the, the kitchen table with your buddy side, who cares? None of it matters. It's just fun to play the game. But on our side, where we're going to tournaments, you clearly care about competitive because you have a Worlds coming up. So like, this is going to impact the next however many Worlds invites until Worlds, right? And so we got to make sure that we're not putting something out there that's egregiously broken, good and bad. That's all. And I think print play is a great way to mitigate that.
I mean, the beauty of it is these are PDFs to begin with, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, it's just, there's just so many inconsistencies. It's like,
I mean, they're PDFs, but PDFs are hard to edit, apparently.
I'm not going to go there.
So I will say, I don't know these battles. So let me put this out there. These battle forces did not feel the same print and play as the Gar Saxons. So I don't know that their intention was to have those as print and play cards. I think they just put them in the Battle Force PDF as hey, here's the card so you guys know. Because if you look at the Gar Saxon card, it's got the front and the back, and it was a very specific print and play document so that you could have it.
It's like a more finished thing like that you can actually,
And so my question is, was this intended to be print and play? at all. And so, because I don't know that they've officially said that.
I think they've said that you don't actually need to buy the boxes. You can just use what's in the PDFs.
In my brain, I have that, but I don't know.
Well, I couldn't tell you where I heard that from, but that's my that's my understanding.
The new stormtroopers have both sides on them.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so that's one thing that looks.
That's fair. That's a good indication. Yeah,
polished.
Yeah.
Anyways, just my hey, listen. I'm just a guy that loves this game and is trying to, help make it the best that we possibly can. And so, listen, mistakes happen, stuff falls through the cracks, dude. It's okay, right? Like we need to come up with a way though where we can fix it a little bit quicker, so that we as competitive players aren't stuck going, "What's happening?" And so.
Yeah. Or in the meantime, just make it so they're not for competitive play. Like, and this isn't even a conversation, like I get why.
Yeah.
I get why they want to make them for competitive play, because it's, competitive play is like, that's what people want to do, right? Like there's a lot more incentive to like go buy stuff and play it if you can go do it at a tournament than if you just have to play it at your kitchen table.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make something legal for competitive play, it also has to be balanced for competitive play. So
yeah.
Okay. Should we do some hobby?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So I don't know what you guys have. There's 3 topics I have actually.
All right.
One of them is just assembling stuff on hard plastic sprues.
Yep.
I'm sure we did this topic back when B1s came out, but now that we have pikes, we probably need to do it again. Unfortunately, I don't have any pikes right in front of me, but I do have the tools, so I will do that. The first thing is just get the right tools, right? And if you guys use something different, please let me know. But the first thing I would get is a pair of these boys. For those that are not watching the video, this is a pair of Sprue Clippers. Basically like a tiny little wire cutter, but it's like perfectly flat on one side, which means that you can get a nice clean cut when you clip something off the sprue. Of course, it's not always a perfectly clean cut, so the second thing you probably want is a sanding block, because a lot of times you get like a little nubbin still on the piece that you clip off, so you can just sand it down with a sanding block. You could also use a hobby knife, which is basically just an X-Acto knife, to just like shave that off. Sometimes you get a little cleaner line than if you use a sanding block. And the third thing is plastic glue. Plastic glue. This is the Citadel plastic glue. I find that this stuff, you've got the Tamiya extra thin, also a very common one. I find that this stuff creates a hold really quickly, such that you can like stick it on and then leave it. But it's still like a little flexible, like it doesn't bond immediately. So if you're doing stuff like, that has, the famous like multiple connection points for a dude holding a rifle or something with both hands, you can kind of like stick all the arms and the wrists and stuff together and then fiddle around with it. Because you have a little play, because it doesn't bond instantly like super glue.
I hate that.
I like it.
Very much the opposite of that.
Okay.
Here's why. My hands aren't as steady as I think they should be when I'm doing doing miniatures. And so I need it to go faster, because the longer that takes, the longer I have time to screw it up and like throw the arm across the room or like drop it on the floor and I'll never find it again. So like the faster that sets up and I can move on with my life, the better that is for me and the miniature.
I mean, one thing I do is like at my assembling sort of station when I'm going, I have sort of a bunch of randomly different sized objects, like sort of like old paint pots and like old brushes, like basing brushes, whatever, so that when I'm done, like put the arms on a model, you can sort of just lean it up against something. And especially like a lot of things like have rifles or whatever, sort of have like a very natural place like under the arms to like sort of lean it against, like sort of a small block or something. So like when I'm doing B1s, that's how I do them all. Is I like put the arms on and then like set it aside on something that just sort of molds it, like keeps it in shape. But I also like plastic glue for B1s because they are very posable, and I like to like get the model mostly set up and then I can pose it a little more specifically. So, but yeah.
I don't find that like super glue sets that fast. Like you still have some time to like move around. It's not as much time as plastic glue given, but I think it's still like a reasonable amount of time. That it's not like, oh, I put it on there, oh crap, like it's not like 2 seconds. It's usually like maybe like 20 seconds still that you have to like make a decision and get it in there. I think maybe it depends on the super glue you're using.
Yeah, I definitely.
I find that I stick my fingers together when I'm using super glue.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, and also like I often will find that I randomly accidentally get a little bit of dab of glue on a part of the model I didn't want. Getting super glue on a part you don't want really sucks. Getting plastic glue doesn't really matter. You just leave it and let it like harden, and then it's fine.
Or just wipe it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. You need to use super glue for the old soft plastic stuff because plastic glue will 100% not bond it. But for the hard plastic stuff, I mean, I get the case for super glue too. Drying faster is nice, especially for the bulkier stuff. That's not as spindly, and you're gonna have less risk to stick your fingers together or glue something wrong. I think it's totally fine. Yeah, but for me,
also, it has its place too. Like I have both at my table. Like especially like heavier models, super gluing them to the base, like where you're like gonna base over that anyway. It usually works really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. The second hobby topic I have is masking. This is an airbrush thing. So this is an ongoing adventure. This is Mr. Boosk, Trandoshan Terror. And as you can see, I'm attempting to paint him yellow. But of course, I did his green skin first, which of course is not picking up very well because it is green and I have a green screen. But I did that because I wanted to do it with the airbrush, because I wanted to do like maybe there's a more official term for this. I wanted to do like an underspray of pink. You can't see it because of the green screen, but it's this pretty cool effect where you get like this, like if you actually look at an amphibian, like sometimes they have like a different color on the bottom than on the top, and it kind of fades. So it looks like that, except it's pink. And I took a airbrushing class years ago at Nova Open, and one thing the guy said is whenever you're painting something living, even if it's like an alien, you should always have some kind of red or pink, because that's the color of life, right? So that's what I was trying to do. It's way easier to do with an airbrush than blending. But of course, I forgot that painting yellow with a paintbrush is horrible. So you can see my terrible attempts here at painting yellow with a paintbrush. So now I'm like, well, I'd love to paint this with an airbrush, but I don't want to paint over my Boosk alligator skin. How do I do that? So I consulted with Dustin, our resident painter, and he's basically like, why don't you mask it with something? So I'm going to end up using a combination of effects here, but basically masking is when you're doing an airbrush covering up what you don't want to paint. So you can see here he has a little plastic astronaut helmet, which I've constructed out of a hair tie and a plastic baggie corner that I've cut out. And then I'm going to use silly putty. Sorry, not silly putty, poster putty for his arms and his legs. And I'm going to see how that worked out.
So much work.
I assure you that it is less work than just trying to paint him yellow with a brush.
Yep.
So yeah, yes, it's a lot of work. He's also a centerpiece model.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, dude,
I wouldn't, there's no way I would do this. I have like 30, more than 30. I have like 40 pikes to paint. There's no way I would do anything that required masking with 40 pikes.
Yeah, I mean that right. Those are the decisions you have to make, right? It's like say, okay, is somebody going to pick this model up and look at this one, or and that was somebody told me early on was, hey, paint your leader of your units really good, and maybe your heavy weapon, and all the other guys just kind of get through, because when people pick up models, they're going to pick up the leader or the heavy weapon because they're the coolest looking ones, right?
Yeah.
But dude, I really struggle. Like, what's that?
So I want to bring up another way to mask.
Vader.
This is Vader. So I actually won best painted at ACO for Vader, which I'm sure that but
it was because they knew you were part of the podcast.
Yeah. It was straight bribery, just pure popular celebrity vote.
Yeah.
But you can also, I did some masking on him just with my thumb. Like if it's just like you're just spraying with an airbrush, you just hold, like when I did the red, I was kind of going like this direction, but I only wanted it to be on the closest part, like right next to the lightsaber. So I just literally like held my finger, over the rest of the model and then sprayed the red like this, so that it didn't get elsewhere. Like you can just mask with your fingers too when you're doing an airbrush. So, Darth Vader, everybody. Who I have to rework my list now for delayed tactics.
Masking's also really good for big vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
Because doing big vehicles with an airbrush is so much easier than with a brush. Like my big AAT to do, like I did a big, like sort of line around, like a stripe around the base of it, and I just took masking tape and turned it into a circle, like a curve, just masked it all and did that. And especially big vehicles, like when I do that, I like to like put my nice crisp painting tape line down, but then also put like a piece of paper over like the rest of the model and tape that down, just so that you don't get any like weird off spraying or whatever, or dropping some paint, because that happens too.
Yeah, 100%. You can also use like on vehicles, you can use like stencils and stuff like that. That's essentially a form of masking. But if you want to do some symbols or whatever, you can either make a stencil or just print one and use it. Like if you want a symbol or something that you want on your vehicle, just print one out from the internet and then cut out the middle part with scissors and then use it like a stencil.
Well, and you can do like our store for 40K terrain has some cool, like a couple pieces of like cool like graffiti on it, and they just did that all with airbrush and just got some like graffiti stenciling. So you could easily get like Arabesh stenciling for like, especially like, I don't know, like Tatooine buildings or whatever. And just stencil on some graffiti and make it look a little bit more lived in. Yeah,
it looks super good and it's really easy. So
dude, you guys, man, I literally I don't have I listen, I'm a very impatient man to begin with. I think this is clear, but like I don't have time for all this masking bullshit. Like I'm just like, all right, let's hit this thing. How can I get this fastest to production as possible? And listen, I make a lot of mistakes. I screw a lot of stuff up and I have to start over generally. So maybe I'm not saving any time, but I don't know. I don't have time for this. So like I'll spend a lot of time on my heroes. So like when I was working on that, the Echo base list that you guys see pictures of, like my generic commander and my Leia, I spent the most time on, but really realistically, I didn't spend that much. Like I wasn't like significantly dumping time in this. I'm like, because I think there's also a part of all of us where part of us, I think we feel like potentially we're going to be judged, not just in the painting competition. I don't mean like literal judging, but like you always feel like people are going to pick these up and judge us and think one thing or another about us. But at some point, recent history, I've just become more of like, I just don't care. I just need to get this done so that we can like put this on the table or take it to an event or do, I just need it to be colored and look halfway decent. I'm not, Dustin or Serestro, or I'm not one of these guys. I'm just a guy. Like, so I just gotta get this done and get it out there and get it to this event or to a recording or something so that we can just move on.
I'm kind of similar. Like, so I'm actually doing a bunch of training right now because I'm currently now running bi-weekly Legion events at our game store. And it's got me really good practice because I've done a lot of rocks, just like sort of rock outcrops, printed a bunch up and painting them. And it's been interesting with the airbrush. Like, you just did a very good practice for my airbrush skills to like just paint random rocks, because like picking out like the high points, highlighting things, because I'm not doing I don't want to do any brushing on them. I just want to do it all with airbrush, so it's super quick. So that's just a fun time.
I've been okay with this hobby, right? So I've really been struggling with lately is my airbrush. So I do really well, and maybe because they're easy. Okay, granted. The droids, like I did my Magna Guard and the new droid leaders all with airbrush with a little detail work with brushes. I did a bunch of vehicles with my Foley with my airbrush with a little detail work, and they all turned out magnificent. But when I come to like organic stuff, I really struggle with using an airbrush, and like there's just so many details and like all these like crevices, and I can't like fine tune that. I'm really struggling fine tuning that to like make it work in a way that makes sense to those like more organic models,
It takes some practice for the smoother contours like cloth and stuff like that. But ultimately you can still do it. I basically painted most of my rebel troopers and my pathfinders and everything with just airbrush, and then I threw like a wash, or it was basically brown colors with the airbrush, and then I threw like a dark wash over them and call it a day.
So how do you do like, okay, let's like, for instance, I don't know, use like a jacket that's coming up against a corner or something. Like, how are you? Oh, I'm hanging on. This cow's so bossy,
No, keep
for
talking.
For being so wrong.
Talking. I'm just grabbing them
all the time. Can't even go get a real model.
I mean, yeah, it's all practice. Like I don't know how to do any of that, like jackets or whatever. But like, starting with big models, like that's why I like all my rocks, because I can just practice getting those contours in on bigger models, and hopefully I can do this kind of stuff one day.
So you still end up having to do the detail with a paintbrush, but like this is not going to come out very well. This is Biston, and the cloth on Biston is entirely airbrushed. Unfortunately, the focus on my webcam is not cooperating. But basically, what I did is like, as you just like everything with airbrush is directional, right? So I just did zenithal. Like I primed him black, I sprayed him dark brown from basically all directions, and then I did like a lighter brown from like a 45-degree angle, and then I did like a tan, like a sand colored tan from straight down, and then I threw a wash on him, and that's it. And then I did the details with a paintbrush. But like, I mean, maybe this doesn't fully answer your question, because Biston is basically just wearing like one giant coat. But
I just like so the Magna Guard, their capes I did a really great job on, but the reason was because I did them separate. Like I didn't spray it while it was all together. I sprayed it while they were off. And so that went really easy, and I had a great time doing that. But that's a larger swath of like fabric. It's not as like crevicey and detailed. It's very like dramatic, right, in the way it flows and stuff. So it was much easier to work on that. I think I really struggle on like like Leia's pants or her jacket or stuff like that with the airbrush, to a point where it frustrates me, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going back to the brush, because I know what I want, and I know I could probably get it out of the brush with a little bit of water and work and whatever. But like, I just been struggling with that lately. That's been my really big thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you want to make, like in that instance with Leia, like her pants and a jacket a different color, that's going to be tougher. I have seen people do that with an airbrush. I am not one of the people that's capable of that.
All right,
at least without some kind of masking.
Yeah.
I've seen people do crazy detail with just like pure airbrush. I don't know how to do that yet. I don't have the small enough nozzles to do that. I'm content with the broad brush stuff and using masking, and that's enough to like, you still have to use a brush for some stuff, but that's enough to make the mass production part of painting efficient enough for me. So I think the answer maybe is like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, maybe it's not like, I think the reason I want it to happen is in my head, it feels like it should be fast. Like I'm all about speed right here.
Yeah.
Like, let's get this done. And I'm really not entirely, I had some good experiences with the contrast paints, but as of late, I really haven't enjoyed the way they've been working for me, and like there's specific things they just don't work on at all, and I've been really not happy with that. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just trying to figure out, how do I make this happen fast? How do I, and I'll get there. It's just been, I've been struggling with shading the shades too. Like I don't want to do that anymore. Like I think maybe I'm at a point where I'm graduating maybe to the next level and going, all right, I don't want this anymore. I want something I want something better for myself and my models. And yeah, so maybe that's where I'm struggling.
Yeah, I mean, my airbrushing level is like, I usually like, especially if I'm doing like a guy, find like what's the biggest color I'm gonna do, and I try to do like sort of a 2-color blend across the whole body, basically, and then that just gives some nice contrast, and then start going with the brush.
Yeah.
And I find like that takes away, that's like 50% of the model done if you can just do like a 2-color blend with the airbrush.
Yeah. I hear you. I got to work on it. Something I got to work on with my limited amount of time.
Well, and the old expression is for like a tabletop standard, like if you only have so much time to focus on just a handful of things, faces and bases.
Yep.
Like
basing I'm real good at.
Yeah, basing is like the single most important part of like a tabletop standard model looking good. And it's really like a good base is really not even that much effort. Personally, I have settled on, I ended up doing, through trial and error, 4 different basing schemes for the 4 different factions, which I thoroughly regret for a variety of reasons. One of which is we now have lots of multi-faction units, and I'm like, how am I going to base these pikes? Like,
yeah,
I still haven't resolved that question. But the other is just that I kind of went from like most difficult and least good looking to like easiest and also best looking. And basically what I settled on is using one of the GW texture paints. You can also get texture paints from Army Painter, I think.
Yep. You can make your own with,
you can make your own.
I've brought this up, but you can go to Hobby Lobby or any of your hobby stores. You can get acrylic paints, and you can get whatever color, and then in that same acrylic section for like painting on canvas paints, they have textured paint basically, or they have it's kind of like a thicker that dries thicker, they'll give you edges and stuff, so you could get any of that. You don't have to do it, but yes, I enjoy the Citadel textured paints as well.
Yeah, so I just do one of those. Like my droids are it's like a dirt base with grass, so I do like the brown texture paint. The name is escaping me right now.
Agrelian?
No, it's
Mudlands.
Sterling something.
Sterling Battlemire.
Yeah, it's one of those two. So I throw that down. I then like dry brush it with like a lighter brown. And then I basically just throw some like Elmer's glue on there, sprinkle some static grass on it, and then take some tweezers and put like a couple of grass tufts. They're the Army Painter grass tufts, which we sell on the fifthtrooper.com. I think. Jay, do we still sell those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you can also get, if you want like different alien biomes, I did for my clones, I did the gray texture paint. Again, the name is escaping me. Astrogranite.
Yep, Astrogranite.
Dry brushed it like a lighter gray once it dried, and then I just glued. They sell like pink and purple and orange and teal grass tufts too online somewhere. I don't think it's Army Painter, it's somebody else, but just glue those on with tweezers, and like it looks great. Super simple, basically 3 steps. That's it.
Yeah, let me see here. I'll give you guys some examples. So same, like I've been working on, let's see if you guys can see this. So if you guys can see this is kind of like a lava base that I've been working on. And so basically what I did was I primed the base black, and then I painted just red all over the base. Then I went over with I forgot which one it is. It's the black one that makes it look like lava.
Crackle paint.
Yeah, crackle paint. So I went over with that with Citadel, and then I did a little lava orange and yellow in there for the highlights, and then white for the really high ones. And then this one, I actually did. So this is a combination. I actually put a little bit of a stone on there, but this is a combination of the two Martian Citadel texture paints that they have, and then a dry brush over it. And so, that's as easy. That's how easy that can be.
Yeah, and that looks awesome. Here's an example of one of the this is Padme, but it's one of the
Felicia.
Because it looks kind of Felicia like, but the various alien tufts on it. Of course, the green not picking up that well. But and then this is just like the normal grass, green grass on top of the brown
green screen,
brown earth. Yeah, it's green screen, but it's super easy. Looks great. So
basically any sort of texture paint and or crackle paint plus a dry brush, and then whatever sort of additional stones or grass
foliage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like my clones are on Geonosis /Tatooine /undescript desert planet.
Yeah.
And I just combine various types of the two Martian GW ones. And like a lot of them I haven't even dry brushed because it comes out already good. I mean, I might go back and do it eventually, but I usually just undertone it with a dark brown so that the crackle paint shows through really nice. And then
is that Shadow Collective Mall? Very nice.
Yeah. So what I did was I took, instead of, he came with that little thing that he's like jumping off of, I just took a rock and I covered it with that Martian iron crust, and then had him jumping off of that. So I'm doing him and all the Mandos with the Martian iron crust. So it's funny, somebody I think it was the three of us were talking about this last time. Here's one of the Mandos. But we were talking about basing, and you guys were saying the same thing. Oh yeah, I based all these guys with this base. And I was like, I do everything different. And a couple people like wrote to me like, oh, thank God you said that, because like I felt like I was the only person in the whole world that was just like, I don't know, this unit's gonna be on grass today,
Yep.
And I've always done that. And I think for me, and maybe I said this during that podcast, but it's worth repeating. Like each unit in my head, I have a vivid and wild imagination, has a story, right? And so like when I was doing like my stormtroopers, like each stormtrooper was on a different planet, like dealing with something different. So like I have, guys that were stuck on this desert planet for years and years and years. So like their armor is all cracking and wearing down, and then, or, maybe they're on a swamp planet, but I just always have these stories for each unit, and that seems to help me decide the basing. And I know it doesn't cohesively go together, but now who looks like the smart one now with all these Shadow Collective ones, right? Like now nothing has the same base, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle, genuine basing question here that just came to my head. Do you put any sealant or varnish or anything over your basing?
Short answer is yes, if I'm not using grass tufts or static grass. I have heard that sealant does weird things to that. So I typically will seal my models before I put that on if I'm using any kind of grassy thing. But otherwise, like this is my original Rebel, much more difficult basing scheme. I was going for like a crate, like the red dirt with the salt over it. It ended up being way too much work, and I kind of started getting lazy. But it's basically like red with it's play sand, and then I painted it red and then dry brushed it white, and that was like, I mean, painting play sand is horrible. So yes, like whoop, shit. Caught him. Just stop holding models up to the camera.
Oh,
it's Biston. I mean, I'm not going to use them anyway.
There you insult the piston.
sorry, Stabcast Ryan. No, yes. So if it's something like this that doesn't have vegetation on it, then yes, absolutely. But I've heard that it like crystallizes on grass or something like that. So
I've never, even in my Warhammer Fantasy days, I never ever did it, and I think it was always because I found that once I did that, if the model fell off and something happened, that it never matched really well, and because it would take more of it with it, I felt like. But that's just always been my thing.
I mean, because I varnish everything, but not tufts, but but basically once the model's done and the basing's done, then I airbrush varnish, so I just do it all together. And I usually get a batch ready, so because varnish kind of sucks to clean out of an airbrush, so I'll get 20.
That's bold.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's just not something. So okay, all right. Controversial question for you. Ready?
Yep.
Bases. You do them with the model on them, or do you do the base and then glue the model onto it?
I do it after I paint the model. Same. With the model on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's typically how I've always done it. But recently I was noticing that I would see a buildup around their feet, and I'm like, well, it doesn't look like they're on the actual whatever land that they're on. It looks like they're sinking into whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? And so I have recently begun doing the bases separately and then putting here, I can show you, using the blue tack and using a tool I don't know, for those of you that are listening audio, but using a tool like this to then paint them off the bases and then glue them onto the base so that they look like they're actually on top of the material versus sinking into it or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's possible that looks better in the end. I'm just that's a bridge too far effort wise for me, I think.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So for me, it's it just makes more sense to when I'm putting them together to put them on the base, and then I have something to hold them when I'm painting it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm having an identity crisis. I think I'm I think I started this off saying I'm a very impatient man, but I'm doing all these things to be better be a better painter, but which are probably costing me more time in the long.
Well, I mean, maybe not. I don't know if you've got a good system where you stick them all onto one thing with blue tack, and I mean, who knows? Maybe that's more efficient. But
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, the way I mitigate it is I try to choose bases that seem wet or that's something you'd sink into.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of crackle paint because turns out cracked desert is you often do sink a little bit into it.
Yeah.
But my rebels are all snow based, so what I do is I go in and I put not footprints or little indents sort of all around, so it looks like an army's walk through. And then them being a little sunk into it makes sense. And when I use Sterling Battle Mire or mud, it's mud. And I just sort of put little indents all over it, so it looks like an army's marched across it. And then it makes sense that they're a little bit sunk into it. So
yeah, it's these weird things that bother me, and I think maybe I think I am at that point where I'm trying to level up, and I never really thought about it. I've just personally growing and not liking the things today. I'll show you guys. I was trying to so I'm working on some of the Shadow Collective, so I had a few minutes and I started working on one of the the lizard ones, and I started
Black
using
Sun.
Black Sun.
Yeah. And so dude, I'm so tired.
I think of them as orcs more than lizards.
Yeah. But I started to use for those of you watching on YouTube, I started using the speed paints, but I just hate it. I'm just not happy. It looks fine, but I'm just going, it's not good though. So I just got upset and so I just did it to one, and I'll just hit them with primer again and start over. But basically I was just it looked good on the scales, so I'll probably keep doing it for the scales, but the cloth and all that, it just didn't look great, so I'm just gonna start over. But I'm really struggling, right? It's the speed to table versus like this isn't good enough for me anymore. So yeah, it's a
I'm
weird time in my life.
both the Black Sun and the Pikes. I'm having trouble visualizing what I want them to look like at the end.
Yeah,
which is always one of the toughest things for me to paint is like I have to figure out what the end is going to be and start. But like for most other models, like I mean, you know what clones look like, you know what stormtroopers look like. But Pikes and Black Sun aren't quite in mine, or probably a lot of people's heads the same way. So trying to figure out what to do is my next step for them.
Isn't that funny? Like I'm with you 100% on that. And I remember like when I first started Legion, I was like, oh, and that's why I did some of my stormtroopers like on different planets and stuff, because I'm like, oh, I miss the creativity of fantasy, Warhammer fantasy. But now that I've got some creative license, I don't want it, and it's really bothering me. But I don't really care for the pictures that they have on the box either. So I'm just like really struggling with. I'm with you. I will recommend. I watched Sarastro did one for the Pikes that was really a really good video. I highly recommend it to everybody. Like, go ahead.
I mean, Sarastro or other people who paint like models on YouTube, I usually watch at least one of those for new types of models. Yeah. Even if I don't copy their scheme, I just want to like get an intuitive understanding of like the process of the model without having to stumble blindly in the dark. And like I do recommend that just to like see how all the different layers and what things people are like pointing out on models is like the hard thing to get, because it just helps a lot to figure all that stuff out before you start.
Yeah, the thing too, I was watching the Pike one by Sarastro, and he like he's doing the same. Listen, I don't want to compare. He's a much better painter than I'll ever be, frankly. But he's doing that same I felt like when he was doing the Pikes, like he's adventuring, and he's like, okay, so he was doing the Citadel color contrast paints, and he's like, okay, so I'm gonna mix these two contrast paints for the skin tone because I don't really like either of these colors. And then he did it. He's like, but I'm only using it for the skin, and then what I'm gonna do is go over it with it. And I was just like, oh man, that's super cool. So he did a great job on those. I mean, listen, he's a great painter, right? Like I don't know why I'm talking up Sarastro while he's got tens of thousands of views for every video, but you guys know what I mean. Like I never looked or watched those videos. I just wasn't interested because I'm like, I'm kind of a guy that like anything I do, even product we create for the 5th Trooper, I'm like, I'll just work it out somewhere in the middle, right? And so like I just make a bunch of mistakes until I like sort it out. And so I've always been like that with painting, but I've just had this itch lately where I'm like, you know what? Let me check out Sarastro and see what he's doing. So
and like those tutorials, like I don't follow them when I paint. I watch it from start to finish, like when I have downtime or whatever, and I usually watch them quick and maybe like sort of skip through it a little bit. But it's just to like get a full understanding of the model. And just also like seeing other people's vision of what those models can look like can both show you, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. So just like seeing pictures of other painted models, you get a feeling for, I like this, don't like that. So
yeah. Send us your Pike and Black Sun color schemes, because this was actually the third thing on my topic list, was like I have no idea how I'm going to paint my Pikes. I'm glad you guys brought it up. It's like this seems like this is a common struggle. I just like I'm with you. I don't really like the colors on the box. I don't want to make them. I also don't want to make them like brown like my Rebels are. I don't know. I'm at a total loss.
My one guiding principle, like all my armies, Calidor blue from GW is like the color I use for things. Like when I need an accent color, that's what I use. And across all the games I play, which means like my display case actually looks pretty cool because it sort of has this like one color that goes through all the armies, of like our Warhammer fantasy stuff and like Star Wars Legion stuff. So I think I'll use Caliber Blue sometime, but Caliber Blue is a pretty noble color to use on some criminals. So it'll be probably just little bits, not a whole thing.
Yeah, the trick is trying to make them look like, I mean, they're a street gang, basically.
Yeah.
So I want them to look kind of grungy, but also I don't want them to just look like rebel troopers, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure how to do that. So listeners, if you have any suggestions, please hit me. Send us your Pike photos, your Pike color schemes.
Yeah, I saw somebody's the other day. Shoot, I'm trying to like quickly find it, which is a nightmare between all these groups if you don't know their name. But it was one of our boys from Germany. He painted the these orc lizard, whatever you want to call them, and he did like an amazing job. And really, I think he did pink for the collar instead of yellow, and he did the name is escaping me. I know.
What was this, like the purple and teal and
yeah,
with the
he's
black?
a friend of ours. I'm so sorry, I forgot his name. But he did a great job, and I was just really impressed with it. And that kind of made me think. It made me think about it differently, and I was like, oh, right, so we can do it this way now. You know what I mean? Which was nice. Killian. That's right. Killian Young out of Germany. Yeah. He just put up pikes too, where he did their breastplates neon green and stuff. If you guys want to see it, it's in the Facebook group.
Star Wars I gotta check that
Facebook out. Group. Yeah. So
I'm gonna pull it up right now. I'm very excited about this.
He did a great job. Actually, you know what we could do for everybody watching YouTube? Why don't I just share my screen real quick, and then you guys can see it on the old YouTube.
Yeah, technology.
Yeah, if we did this, smart.
Well, in the interim, Kyle, the criminal. Oh, and you got it. The criminal element. I'm kind of thinking of maybe doing my syndicate as like 1920s gangster style of like good-looking guys, like all dressed up for battle instead of just looking grungy. But we'll see.
That's funny.
Let me see if I can find his Black Suns. But yeah, he did a great job. Killian is always doing amazing stuff. He's a really good painter. Aha, here they are, Kyle. You'll like this. Share my screen. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Look at those.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
They're beautiful.
It's not just the colors, like however he does this effect. It almost looks like it's lifted out of like a comic book or something.
Yeah.
Well, and you can actually see, like, you can kind of see the blending. Like, it's very well done, and you can it's like diagonally blended almost.
Yeah.
Like
so good
on the purples. Yeah, it's like diagonally, so it doesn't stand out as much as just straight lines.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But anyways, yeah, so I saw those, and he's always got amazing paint jobs. So Killian Young, go check him out. He's amazing.
There you go.
Oh yeah, hold on, I wanted to show you guys this too. Sorry, dude, this guy, he's crazy.
This is riveting audio content.
Check this out. This Spider Droid.
Oh, I saw this.
So for those of you listening on the audio, I don't care. Just come over to the YouTube. Like, I don't know. Like, sorry, but he's got a Spider Droid that's actually climbing up like a cave wall that's attached to the base. Dude, it's so good.
That's good. Awesome. I love how he's still like actually carved out the firing arcs.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I also would love to see someone plump like 3 of these down on a board.
Yeah.
And judge, are these legal?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And also, what counts for line of sight?
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he does great work. And I just saw those and I was like, oh my God, those are amazing. Like, but anywho, I'm aspiring to be better, everyone.
That's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Indeed. All right. Well, you guys have any final topics, final thoughts?
This will be coming out late, but come to probably the next bi-weekly Legion event, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Tuesday nights.
Oh, mini
Shout out
extravaganza.
to Manitoba, I guess.
Yeah. There you go. We just do all local shout outs now, Jay. That's how this works.
Yeah, what is happening to this podcast? Oh, you guys are gonna really regret this. I'm gonna have so many shout outs.
We have there's mini extravaganza this week, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh
that
God,
thing.
is that this week?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't even know that was still a thing.
14th through 16th or whatever the dates end up being.
Yeah. Cool. So the new mini extravaganza dates. So I'm sure, excuse me, that we'll have something to talk about next week from that.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like what's left? Like, I guess they'll show us some future state stuff, but I mean, really, like everything's kind of out. Maybe they'll get swoop bikes out and show us what crit to dodge means. That'd be nice.
Crit to block.
Just wait when they show the Ewok Battle Force command cards, and I'll give everything standbys.
All your Ewok troopers gain standby tokens and aim tokens
within range 1.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck fitting an entire Ewok unit within range 1 of anything.
You know what I think would be an insane thing? It would be insane, but would be an amazing card or thing that the Ewoks could do. Like at any point in the game, they could drop a card to take over like a heavy vehicle, and then you just get to take that from your opponent and use it. Like that would be so good.
That would be a reason to never bring a heavy again.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say one pip, just remove one ATST from the table.
Yeah. Yeah, the 2 log things.
Yeah. Well, just like, wouldn't that be? I know it'd be crazy, but like, I wonder if you could do it in a way where it's just for like 1 round or something. You know, like Luke's card where you can make it attack the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I took it over for like a round or something or a turn. You know, I think that it's just funny enough that it would be. I know it's stupid and broken, but it'd still be funny. You know?
I'm both excited and nervous to see the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Like what their stats and cards actually do.
Samesies.
Yep. All right. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some of that this week. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we'll just get a bunch of painting streams, which would be fine too.
Yeah, then maybe we can figure out the pikes and back suns then.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
I'm Jimbo.
Sorry, the baby's not here anymore. Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Next week, more Fox News.